Good morning, everyone, or almost good afternoon, right? Pleasure to be here again, sharing the stage with some great individuals. For me personally now, I am always sad on the last day of the event because I always want it to last. And I always get a lot of energy meeting new people and getting new insights and making new connections. So I hope everybody had their fair chance to get the connections and had a receivable outcome that they're happy with. Because I have a slogan I go with, which as long as the outcome is income, right? So with that said, I am very pleased to do. I will just follow up the introduction and thank you so much, Caitlin, for the great intro. I'm just going to follow up with that. We have Mr. Chong here, which is a mastermind in bridging good ideas and make them into reality in the startup scene. So very happy to have him. And secondly, Mr. James Song, who definitely is making AI simple, relatable, and human-friendly. And that reminds me of a quote I heard from Mr. Richard Branson at once that said, "Every idiot can make a simple thing complex." And Mr. James Ong is definitely doing the opposite. So he's making a complex thing simple, which I'm very grateful for. So
Thank you.
great to have him. And then we have Mr. Syed Mubarak, who is basically within the sustainability field, 30 years plus in experience, which is fantastic. And also, not only is he also in advisories of many startups, but is also getting a bigger voice within the startup scene. So we're very lucky to have him. And then we have Mr. Sito Kanyao, which is has the same background as me in accounting, and as a numbers man also went into VC and private equity, and mainly is working in the ASEAN and markets and also in China, and it's a founder's dream. Basically, once they want to scale and go from Series A and up. So very interesting, and a pleasure to have you all here sitting next to me. We have some questions, of course, and we would love to bring the insights to the audience. So let's just, with no further ado, just start off, and I will start with you, Mr. Chong, of course, and I will just read off from this one. And it says, what are the key elements needed to build collaborative ecosystems that truly appreciate investable growth across industries?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for having here. Thank you, Victor, for facilitating this session. So your question is a very challenging question because building accelerated ecosystem, especially in my role right now in Penang, is not a very easy task. So in essence, building ecosystems, especially for innovation and technology industries, requires a collective effort of creating opportunities as well as collective efforts to increase the potential to attract funding, right? So these are, to me, two key elements when it comes to building an accelerated ecosystem. So when it comes to the opportunities, we are talking about opportunities in basically varied stages of growth. Especially when in my role in Digital Penang, when we talk about startup ecosystems, we need to focus on how do we create opportunities and innovation development at the idea stage, 0 to 1 ideas to incorporation of companies, and then scaling those companies through the seed stage to pre-A and A and above. And of course, during all these efforts, we need to involve a lot of stakeholders, VCs, angel investors, industry partners, and everything else to basically facilitate the path of growth of startups in these areas. And for industries also, we are also working very closely with some of our partners like the Malaysian Business Angels Network to basically promote the development of corporate venturing among the industries, not only to provide for collaboration opportunities for growth for startups and companies to work together, but also for innovation to occur. Yeah, so in general, I think this is a very simplified answer. The real world, I think those are in the industry, my fellow industry partners here can appreciate that it is much more deep challenging than that. Yeah.
building AI ecosystem for the last 10 years before ChatGPT was even popular. And of course, ecosystem for AI in Southeast Asia, with China, with the US, and Davos, and many in India as well. So you ask me what is the best way? What's the best way to build ecosystem? If I say today, and you know, guys, I work on the space of AI for humanity, right? If I tell all of you on the floor right now, the world is going to come to an end in the next 1 month, and I say I want to build an ecosystem to work together to rescue us from the worst case scenario of existential threat, I can build an ecosystem very quickly. Because why? The best way to build an ecosystem is to have a common purpose. The purpose is to serve the community together. So that is the answer I want to give to you. To build an ecosystem, because everybody wants to join the ecosystem for a common purpose. If the purpose is all about just making money, the ecosystem will not last for too long. That's my personal opinion.
Fantastic insight. Can I just get a sub question on that? Like, can you come with an example of that?
Okay, I give you an example. This is actually a very good stuff. If you want to build an ecosystem, let's say about artificial intelligence, like Penang wants to do so, right? If I tell you your children who are less than 10-year-old, or the children to be born, the grandchildren, if you don't do something about it today in the ecosystem, all of them is going to fall victims to AI because they're going to build a relationship with AI, just like social media or mobile or gaming. They're going to be addicted to it. They're going to be unaware of that, and they are not protected by all of us. And I say I want to build an ecosystem to protect public awareness and literacy for children. All of you will come with children. That's be an example.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that example. Makes a lot of sense. Mr. Syed, I have something for you specifically, unless you have a note on the same topic with ecosystems. Yeah?
Yeah.
I have something for you here. So what sustainability strategies should the industrial sector prioritize to align with ASEAN and global sustainability goals?
Oh, very interesting question. Thank you very much for the event organizer, Rene, to invite me here. And I'm happy to be here the second time. And yeah, to ecosystem and sustainability, right? So, you know, there are a few areas we could focus on. I could put it in a 3 Ds. One is a decarbonization. Another one could be a digitalization. And then last but not least could be a democratization. Right? I think these are the 3 key areas where ecosystem could play a very important role. And particularly, we are in Malaysia, so ASEAN perspective. Okay, and ASEAN is almost room for a 700 million population, right? And accountable for $3 to $4 trillion ecosystem, and not to forget, it's almost 1/3 of the carbon footprint. Right? And with ASEAN is with anticipated to growth, and we are in a growth stage. Ultimately, there will be a need for energy, which is fundamental, and of course, subsequently, energy. When it is energy, there's a water, right? And then we are talking about water scarcity now, because there is a lot of data centers growth in Malaysia, right? And then water becoming a challenge, and ultimately, there will be a waste. Then how are we going to, like yesterday, I think one of the presenter was talking about, Albert Einstein, right? I mean, we can't solve the problem the way we created it. So it is, so we have been creating problems, after the World War II, right? Of course, there are positivity because we have capitalism and exponential growth from an economic standpoint, but also collaborated with the exponential growth of carbon emission. Today, around 38 billion tons of carbon is emitted, right? So we set UN SDG goals to limit the temperature to below 1.5 degrees Celsius. Definitely, we are not there. The latest report already 1.6. We will be easily touching 2 degrees Celsius. So that means the risk is there. I always look at from a risk point of view. So in the past, we call it risk mitigation. Now it's about risk adoption. How are you going to adapt risk? And how are you going to manage risk so that you can be propel the sustainable growth from an economic standpoint, and of course, while you're solving the environmental and social inclusivity to bring together. So there is a lot of opportunity, and then ecosystem plays a very important role. In the past 7 decades ago, most of the time companies are built on vertically. But now we are moving into the horizontal integration. So horizontal integration creates opportunity because not everyone can do everything. So when we talk about E, S, and G, environmental, energy, or energy transition, or carbon management, so that could be one group of companies. When it comes to social, it's a social enterprise, social inclusivity, human capital development. So that could be another aspect of it. When it comes to governance, data protection, data security, and my friends spoke about AI governance, responsible AI. So assume you bring all this together into an ecosystem. Then you are really thriving the ESG in a much, much better perspective. That's only possible when you bring the ecosystem where startups and SMEs, small to medium enterprise, and of course, heavily supported by MNCs and government ecosystem. Then it really thrive the whole business angle while you're really solving the inherent challenges. I'm sure, my friend at the left, talks, from a funding perspective, you are also in a investment side. And then you, both of you, could able to see the value, right? And how to ingest money in it, then to see the overall creating a shared value for everyone. Yeah, I'll stop it here.
No, that's good. Thank you so much. I have a sub question though to that. Like, do you see any existing initiative that supports that?
There are. I mean, so I live in Singapore, so we call a sandbox environment, right? So right now I'm actually working on a 2 sandbox environment, very specific to mobilizing green hydrogen solutions for aviation sector and land mobility sector. So where the hydrogen manufacturing companies and equipments who able to store and distribute, and of course, ultimately the end customer, right, who can consume this. So we have to bring all these things together in a sandbox. Of course, there are few other people, government, regulators, and investors. So then create this to mobilize this ecosystem. So that is an example how in Singapore there is, we work around. Yeah, so it's possible.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Mr. Sitsu, so I have a question for you as well. From a venture capital and private equity perspective, what do you look for in a startup or scale up to make them investable for long-term growth?
First of all, thank you for having me here, the organizer. With regards to the questions raised by Victor, typically we will look at, at Kairous, we not only bringing funds, okay, we typically will become strategic investors, okay, together with run the business together with the startups, okay. So for so-called good investments, typically we will look at a few things before we come into the investments, all right. First of all is the market size, all right, whether it's really the total addressable market, the TAM is big enough or large enough, okay, for the startups to grow, okay. Then secondly is the sector, okay. The sector means that whether, like for instance, in China right now is aging populations, healthcare or so-called digital health might be a right sector to invest in, okay. Then thirdly is we will look at the business model, whether the business model is scalable or not, okay. The business model happen in China typically it started in the West, okay. Then subsequently come to the, East. Then it may come to Southeast Asia anyway, okay. So we leverage on sort of the arbitrage between the countries, okay. Then, if let's say you look at the VC founders, okay, VC fund, we look at founders more instead of the business model, all right? Because VC typically invest in more early stage companies, all right? Then we look at founders, okay, whether they are able to sort of pivot during the hard time. Then as well as whether the founder itself has come up with a team, okay? It's not a sort of a lone ranger, okay? We have seen many companies is led by founders, but do not have a team, all right? Then if let's say it's only a standalone founders, typically they won't last long. They may go into maybe a Series A, subsequently cannot grow into Series B and C. Okay, these are the few items that we look at before we investing. But of course, the most importantly, last and not least, is the route of exit. Okay, these in projects or the founders or the startups are able to exit within our fund tenure. Let's say our fund tenure for the VC fund typically will be 10 years. For PE fund will be 5 to 6 years. So we will look at it whether we are able to exit within this tenure. A lot of SMEs actually, in order for them to embrace technologies, okay, sometimes not only funding is the sole problems or concern, okay, they do not know how to select the right. Like for instance, I have seen many SMEs, they do not even have a so-called ERP system. So in order for them to, adopt to the AI, so it's still far back. So sometimes at our end, we're not only coming in with funding, we also advise them how they choose the right ERP system, how they choose the right integrated system. Then we even project head the team of the project team, for the implementation stage, so that they are able to run the ERP or so-called the integrated system successfully. Sometimes a lot of SME spend the money, but unfortunately, the system is at the back end and not going to full run. Sometimes they run the parallel running for many years, but it's yet to kick off or live run for their existing SAP system or whatsoever. So this is the problems of the lot of the SME, not only the funding to us.
I just add one point. I think Chong Seng's covered a lot of things. Sita covered. There's one more element when we move towards digitalization. I think we need to look at this digital sustainability. If you listen to the yesterday's speaker, an amount of data being generated in 2025, and then how are we going to move forward with our friend, promoting AI? So we really need to be mindful. Otherwise, the amount of energy required for the DCs will be exponentially high. For example, give you an example in Singapore, DCs used to be like a 3 to 4% of the overall nation's energy consumption. By in the next end of this decade, it could accelerate to 12%. So data centers, when I say DCs. So I think that's something we need to be very mindful, and also it requires a lot of water. So we had to be sustainable in order to propel the growth in terms of the digitalization as well.
Can we please give the panelists a round of applause?